Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This is Pete with Keller Williams. I want to spend a quick minute with you on appraisals. Once you're under contract as a buyer, you've said, dear seller, I'll buy your house for $400,000. Seller says yes. You work on your inspection. We help you with your due diligence and all those important things. In the background, the lender has hired an appraiser to go out and assess the value and condition of the home. And let's say you're in a contract at 400 and the value comes in at $400,000 and there are no conditions on the appraisal, meaning there's nothing broken that the lender would want to see fixed, like a broken roof or doors that don't latch or something that's important. So great, you just move on, your condition comes and goes, and you've made it past your appraisal condition. If the appraisal comes back at 425, and again you're under contract at 400, well, congratulations, you've bought a house under market value. That is only your information. That is between you and the appraiser and the lender. I typically will get a copy of the appraisal if we have to argue something, but it isn't even my information. So it doesn't go to the seller. That is your gain. That is not public info, so congratulations. If, on the other hand, the appraisal comes in at 375 and you're in a contract at 400, then we have a challenge. The lender has said, if you put 10% down, I'll give you a house for, you can buy a house for 400, and the lender says 10%, I'm willing to put down 360. Well, if the appraisal comes in lower, the lender doesn't want you to have less money in the game than your 10% or whatever you've agreed to. So the lender's willing to say, hey, you know what, really, we can only lend you up to 90% of this purchase value for this loan program. And typically the buyer will go back to the seller and say, look, we can't pay 400 if the appraisal is at 375 because we don't have another $25,000 and the lender's only going to give us 90% of the appraised value for this deal. So the typical process is to alert the seller, the listing agent, and see if they have some information that would help the appraisal on the value. Give them a fair shot at it. Honestly, we do that, and it's a little token because the reality is appraisals typically don't get corrected or corrected up. Appraisal regulations in the process are pretty tight, but we do let the seller know that we have an issue with the appraised value or a condition. Let's say the appraisal came in and said the value's fine, but you've got to fix this and this. We let the seller know, and that's our appraisal objection. If the seller is willing to fix the roof or the seller is willing to change the price down to 375, fantastic. You just save some money off your purchase price and you're buying it at appraised value. Often the seller has mentally spent that $400,000, so that's not an easy pill to swallow. They will often come back and say, how about 380? Or how about you bring $5,000 to help me out with this difference? That becomes just a negotiation to see where we wind up. And hopefully the seller comes to terms with what the appraisal is. Occasionally there's a bad appraisal in that the appraiser missed something or doesn't understand a particular market, and we have argued those and taken them back to the appraisal team, and they will review it. But typically I really don't see those things changing. So an appraised value is likely to happen to the seller again. So 375, even if they terminate with us, the next appraisal is very likely to be 375 again. So most of these work out where the appraisal seller will correct the price. That's kind of all three scenarios for an appraisal. I'm always happy to make these videos and answer questions. I try and talk about the things that come up most often. If you've got something I can answer for you, call, text, email, or request a video and I'll make it. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.